Hi, welcome to this episode of Life Purpose by Design Gear Up and Go. This episode is designed to provide you some strategies to navigate from either contemplating, preparing, or executing your next big life move. And by the way, I hope you do either plan a big move or you're living out your big move. But if not, it's okay. This episode is designed to give you that extra boost to help you gear up and go. Welcome to Life Purpose by Design. Thank you so much for joining us here at Life Purpose by Design. I really appreciate your allowing us to share your space and your time as we come and kind of provide you some inspirational moments to kind of help you kind of navigate through everyday life situations and circumstances. Today's episode, Gear Up and Go, marks the halfway point of ours, number 3 of a 6-point series entitled Show Up and Show Up Strong. And so I want to do a brief recap of our first 2 series episodes in the series. The first was Faith Within Our Reach. And it was talking about having faith to live out your hopes, your visions, and your dreams with persistence, and having that determination that, it's too late to turn back and that you've reached the point of no return, so you have to go forward. The second episode that we did was called The Empowered Life, and that is talking about living empowered transmits our best intentions into actions. And we talked about Philippians 4:13, where we say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and trying to remind ourselves that Jesus is our power source and the Holy Spirit is our power supply that allows us to live the empowered life. So today's episode, we want to talk about kind of looking at the starting line and where do we start when we're looking at having to prepare or contemplate making a big move in life, and that could mean different things for different people. I use the word big, but big is relative. So let's talk a little bit about being at the starting line of making a big decision, a big life decision, or something that's just important to you. That could be a life changer. So when we think about gearing up, we're talking about one, awareness. We're talking about readiness, making adjustments, being equipped, and then acting on that vision or that dream or whatever it is that you have defined as your next big move. So for me personally, starting up emerges to be harder than finishing sometimes. Putting one's faith in motion for that next big move, one, it demands preparation. It demands alignment of focus because you got to bring everything in of all the different things that you are working on, thinking about doing, your short-term goals, your long-term goals. And it demands staying power. It demands us making a decision to stick with it, regardless of the obstacles and the challenges that we have, so that we're not on this roller coaster ride of starting and stopping, starting and stopping. So the good news is overcoming those startup hurdles paves the pathway for us to finish strong and to cross the finish line of whatever that big move or whatever that life goal is that you may be working on. So the big question is, do you have a big move in progress? Are you thinking about making a big move, whether it's with your family, with your ministry, with your business, whether it's one of personal growth and development? If whenever you're watching this, just please feel free to put it in the chat, yes or no, in terms of, are you planning a big move or are you living out your big move? And if you don't, that's okay. You're still in the right place at the right time. But think about, what are you passionate about right now? What is something that you desire to do more of, or something that you desire to do less of? Something that you want to make a big priority and that you think is just crucial to your living out, your life purpose or finding fulfillment in life. So think about, if you're kind of reluctant to even plan it or dream it, what is holding you back? Is it because you're unclear of God's plan for your life? Is it because you have a fear of failing? or you're waiting on someone else to go first. Like, I think I'm going to let the other folks go first and then I'll try it out. And we've seen that a lot with the pandemic and with the COVID vaccines, that people are waiting for a lot of people to go first and then they are saying, let me see what happened to them first. But when you're thinking about making that big move, because it's your vision and it's your dream, nobody else can really run that test or that pilot test for you. It's something that you have to be willing to step into it, to just, step into it and try and see what happens. So maybe you do have a big move. Maybe you say, Sheila, I am living it right now. I'm in the smack dab in the middle of it. So what is the status of your big move? Are you contemplating? Are you preparing it? Are you executing it? Do you have a plan? Do you have something with some goals that are written down and some deadlines? Have you given it some structure to that big move so that you can track your progress and your benchmarks? It's kind of like grading yourself, not in terms of pass or fail, but just to see where you are in making the progress and whether there's some adjustments that you need to make. So when you think about contemplation, I'm thinking about it. I can see the benefits of it. It's something that I want to do. There may be a few things that are kind of holding me back, and I need to kind of sort through some stuff and reevaluate it. That's all part of the process of just contemplating, doing your pros and cons and making those smart goals. Preparation is you're committed to it, you're aligning your focus, you're setting goals, and you've actually made some deadlines. And even if you wrote them in pencil so that you can kind of erase them and kind of change them around a little bit, it's okay. It's part of the preparation process. When we think about execution mode for those big life moments or those big life moves, it's kind of like I'm taking action, it's fight or flight. Quitting is not an option. I'm out here to stay. So I want to just encourage you or dare you or challenge you to make that big move, be involved in it, be part of it, own it, take responsibility for it. Um, just to kind of get started on it. If you were thinking about something, but you just weren't quite sure, I have just learned that there is no way to find out but to just put your hands to the plow and see what happens with some things. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but that's okay. That's how we live and learn, through our mistakes, through our failures, and to just kind of hit that restart button, learn from the thing, kind of like learn forward from the mistakes that we've made for the things that didn't work. I want you to, explore beyond, I think this is a God plan. I think this is God's will. Sounds like a good idea. It feels good to me. And I want you to just go for it. Just gear up, make the necessary adjustments, and just go for whatever it is that you're dreaming or that you're envisioning to be the next step in your life. The novelist Ernest Hemingway says, never mistake motion for action. There's a lot of motion going on, but it may not necessarily be an action which would lead to some type of definitive outcome that you can actually see the benefits from it, and that it has a some type of goal or an objective aligned with it. Ephesians 2:10 says, for we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. So God knows what we are capable of, because actually he's the one that created us. He's gone before us. He's actually designed our lives, and he's designed those good works that we are to commit to his hands as we contemplate, as we prepare, and as we execute the moves that we are envisioning for our lives. So I want you to have a moment of reflection. And I just said, am I really committed to spending quality time with God, seeking confirmation of the path that he has purposed for me? Or am I spending quiet enough time just to listen to my own self-talk and ideas and thoughts to see whether or not this is something that I feel like I can be committed to, that I can give some staying power to? And maybe you're at different seasons of life, so you need to evaluate, where am I right now? It may be something that you jot down, and it's more of a long-term strategy or plan that you can then say, I can't commit now, but I can commit later. So are you willing to kind of shift gears and align your priorities with God's priorities. And that's the most important thing, because you don't want to just be doing things to be doing things. You want to make sure that it can be a good thing, but it may not be the best thing for you. And I've had to learn that over and over and over and over and over again. So James 2:17 tells us faith by itself isn't enough. So if you are a believer in Jesus Christ, which I am, just having faith is just not enough. I've got to put my faith to work. You've got to put your faith in motion, put your faith in action. So, and that's why the word tells us in James that it says, show me your faith and I'll show you my deeds. And I will show you my faith by my good deeds. So need you to just step out and do the thing that you are destined to do. And just know that your faith is there to support you. Your faith is there to give you that assurance that even if you have a misstep, that God is there to gently guide you back on the right path so that you can kind of stay aligned with his priorities. Recently, and I guess at the beginning of the series of Show Up Strong, I adopted this word, stick-to-itiveness, as my daily motivator booster. So that's kind of my gear up word for me to when I'm feeling like, I'm in pause or in stall just a little bit too long. I need to just stick to it. I need to just keep my plans focused, look at my plans, revisit my plans, and kind of see where am I in my benchmarks. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. Stick-to-itiveness people they have a goal or a vision in mind. It motivates them and it drives them beyond the point of no return. You envision, you believe, and you pursue your higher purpose. And it helps you to be committed to that goal, to make the adjustments, to equip yourselves and to act on it, regardless of what your circumstances are that may appear to say, this is too hard, or maybe I'm working on the wrong thing and I should have done something different. But stick-to-itiveness gives you that extra boost so that you can gear up and go. So today I want to share with you two of my favorite biblical gear up and go, stick-to-itiveness trailblazers. And those two people for me are Joshua and Caleb in the Bible. They are two of the star credits of God's promise to deliver the children of Israelites who were in bondage in Egypt for 400 years. And so God involves Moses and Aaron and Joshua and Caleb in his plan to deliver them from that place of bondage and to take them to a place of promise that he has given them called Canaan land. So kind of a quick overview, if you're not familiar with Joshua and Caleb, kind of gear up and go story. So way back in Genesis, God tells Abraham, he gives him a covenant promise that he and his descendants, the Israelites, are going to take possession of Canaan. So in Exodus, God chooses Moses to be that leader that goes to this King Pharaoh to say, hey, Pharaoh, you got to let my people go because God has some place for them to go. He's got a big move for the Israelites to go to this place of promise. So Moses takes on that leadership role, but he also has Joshua and Caleb as part of his leadership. So tell Moses, okay, you get to the land. I need you to send 12, pick your leadership team. I want you to send 12 leaders to kind of just spy out the land, take a tour of the land, and so that you can have an idea of what I'm sending you to. So this leadership team goes to Canaan and they spy out the land. Well, on this team, you got Joshua and Caleb, and then you've got these 10 other leaders who goes with them. And when they get there, they see some of the good stuff that God promised. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. There's a harvest there. But they shift their minds from the mission and the purpose for which they were going there, and they start seeing all the problems. They focus on the problems more than they focused on the promise. So they get to this place and they start talking about, oh yeah, the land is great. We actually brought some grapes and some of the fruit of the land back with us. But by the way, there are some people there that are very powerful and there are giants in the land. So the sticking point for them and their part of their big move was the giants in the land. They forgot all about this is something that God has promised that I'm going to get a deed and title to one day. They were looking at the current lay of the land versus the promise. And so for you, as you're contemplating your big move, it may not look anything like your current circumstances, may not look anything like the promise or the vision that you are thinking about. But I want you to look past all that and just keep your mind focused on what is the vision, what is the dream, what is the plan, that when all this other stuff clears out, what is the deed and title that God has promised you? What is that? So look past all the other stuff that may be in the space right now, because God is, as you take possession of it, as you step out and go, as you gear up and go, God is going to move all that stuff out of your way. And so I want you to just be encouraged to not focus on the problem, but focus on the promise that God has given you. So they even went to say that not only are there giants in the land, but we seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we look the same to them. They have no idea what was in those persons' minds, but they adopted this paralysis by analysis mindset and had this herd-like mentality. And then they had this mistaken self-identity, like, we are grasshoppers. Not only do we think we're grasshoppers, but we think everybody else think that we're grasshoppers. So it ended up being a total distrust of God and the promises that they've made to him. So then we have Caleb and Joshua getting ready to make their big move. They're getting ready to gear up and go because they remembered the promise. So Caleb's big move was like, we're going to fight or flight. We're going to gear up and go. And Caleb put on his faith gear and he says to the people, be quiet. Stop all this talking about giants in the land and grasshoppers. He says we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. Caleb's gear was one of confidence in the faithfulness of God, in the promises of God. So he just kind of shut everybody up and he spoke into the atmosphere words of confidence. And sometimes that's what you've got to do. You've got to shut the noise out that's going on in your head, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm afraid to do it. It's too hard. Nobody's ever done it before. And you need to speak out into the atmosphere so that you can quiet the noise of fear and doubt and all that herd-like mentality of negativity. So the journey wasn't easy. They went through a lot. They went through the wilderness. They had to come to the Jordan River. But again, they got there in a place of waiting. And guess what? God just parted the water so that they could just kind of walk on through into the place that he's promised. God has a plan and a purpose and a process that we each have to walk through. We got to walk it out. You got to walk it out. That's the only way that you can get to the other side of your big move. You got to walk it out. But if you show up to the place that God has purposed for your life, trust me, just like he told the priest to step into the waters and the waters parted and they crossed through, God has a Jordan bank that's waiting for you to just show up in place, take that first step, and it's all going to be totally aligned with his will for your life. So let's look at some gear up and go kind of strategies or life points that I think that we can learn from Joshua and Caleb's big move to take possession of the promises that God gave them. The first one is ignore the naysayers and just reflect on the promises of God. The Bible tells us that God is not a human. He can't lie. If he said something, he's not going to change his mind about it. If he said it, then he's going to act and he's going to fulfill it. The key is, did he say it or were you listening to the wrong voice? So we have to hold on to the hope that we profess and know that he who gave us the promises is faithful to carry them out. So ignore the negativity of others. Ignore your own negative self-talk. Who are you listening to? Check who are you listening to? What is that little whispering voice that you're allowing to drown out the leadings and the promptings of the Holy Spirit? And you just need to tune into what is that voice that you recognize as being one of the promptings of the Holy Spirit. God's faithfulness, I'm sure if you look back on your life, particularly if you're a believer, God's faithfulness throughout your journey. He seriously, has God ever failed you, let you down, abandoned you, or wronged you? I know he hasn't. And I can say that because I know he's God. We may not agree with his decisions, his plans, his purposes, but they are always working for our good. Second is stay on focus with your mission. Stay focused on your mission. You know, sometimes I can be kind of all over the place because I've got a lot of stuff going on in a lot of different directions. But we've got to stay focused, in order to gear up. You can't have all this gear for this, gear for that. We have multiple callings. We multitask at times. But if we are not careful in balancing all that, that gear is going to get a little heavy. So stay focused on your mission. Just like Proverb tells us, commit to the Lord whatever it is you do, and he will establish your plans. He will help you prioritize. What do you do first? What do you have to multitask? What do you do in the morning? What do you do in the evenings? And one of the things that's key for me for gearing up is to organize whatever is unorganized around me. And I would just want to share that tip with you. It may not even be related to your big move. It could be, I need to do the laundry because that's distracting me. I need to, clean out my office space. If it's something that's, in my mind, it's a task that I know that, oh, I need to do this. It's taking me away from being fully committed and present in the moment for what's most important. So think about anything that's unorganized around you and let's get it organized. Look at your space and what I call make it purposeful. Make it fit into, if it doesn't fit with what you're working on, it's got to go. Just get it out of there. Um, the naysayers saw the giants, and Joshua and Caleb said, yeah, there's some giants, but that's not what I'm going to focus on. I'm getting rid of all that. I'm just going to focus on making the space that I'm in, making this a purposeful trip. We came here to explore the land for us to take possession of it, and that's what I'm going to focus on. So you have to just fix your eyes on Jesus. He's the author and the perfecter of our faith, and we just have to stay tuned into him. There's no way around getting to the other side of your big move without staying in tune to the person who hopefully gave you the vision for the big move in the first place. 3, pace yourself. What is your top 3 priorities right now? Pace yourself for what those priorities are and what do you need to tackle first, second, or third. But don't get ahead of God. Set some deadlines, maybe your 30, 60, 90-day deadlines for some things that you're working on. Think about your present future steps. What is necessary for me to fulfill that vision and to make that vision a reality? When you think about present future, it's not really a contradiction because Hebrews 11:1 tells us faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So we have to do some present future planning and preparation around the big moves that we have planned. And just remember, delay is not denial. So even if something looks like it's not happening in the time frame that you want it to happen, it doesn't mean that you're off track. Or that you're on the wrong path. We just got to, again, walk it out and wait it out. So one of the things that I've learned in my own personal experiences is, coming to a complete stop on something because I want to stop, not because God is letting me to stop. Restarting from a complete stop is so much harder from gearing up from a slow pace. If we could just keep moving, do what we can until we can do more versus just getting frustrated and just stopping, we can make so much more progress, and it's easier to speed up than to restart from a complete stop. Think about when your car comes to a red light and you had a complete stop. There's a little delay in your being able, even when you hit the accelerator, there's a little delay for you to actually gear up from a stopping position or parking position to go. But if you are approaching either a yellow light, and hopefully you're close enough to the yellow light to go through it, or a yield sign, you're not having to come to a complete stop. So you have that momentum that can help take you, through that intersection without coming to a complete stop. And it's the same thing when we're planning, making plans and stuff. If we don't just stop totally, and maybe if we just slow down a little bit, that lift off is a lot easier. So be determined to keep moving forward. If you need to kind of refuel, refresh, and restart, that's fine. Hebrews 12:1 says, let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Again, let's show up and show up strong for whatever it is that we're doing and going beyond that point of no return. And in Philippians 1:6, Paul reminds us just to be confident that God who began a good work in you is going to carry it to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. So pace yourself, stay focused, and just walk it out. The last one is to avoid um, working in silos. There are times, as a writer, it's just me working and writing. But there are lots of opportunities for us to partner with others because there's strength in numbers. So first of all, you need to partner with God. Philippians 2:13 again says it's God who works in us to will and to act and to fulfill his good purpose. Second, partner with others. There is somebody somewhere that you can find a partner with. And it doesn't necessarily require some type of financial exchange. Just find someone where maybe you can barter your skills and services to help them reach their goals and their visions, and they can also help you. So I recently started participating in a mastermind group, and it has really been a blessing for me. And so maybe find a Facebook group or a mastermind group, or just a good friend who will just listen to your ideas as you brainstorm. But I want to encourage you to not just stay in that place thinking that you're alone and you got to figure out everything alone, but that you can find some tribe to work with you to kind of work through the process. We are always better together. We are always better together. Jesus didn't need his 12 disciples, but he chose them. He invited them to do the big moves that he needed to do on the earth. And so he invites you and he invites me to be part of his tribe to do the work that he's purposed for us to do. So I want you to think about, who is that tribe that you can partner with to help you make that next big move? And if it's somebody that you just need to brainstorm, run some ideas, I'm always available. You are more than welcome to, DM me and reach out to me if you just need somebody to listen to the plan, to do some brainstorming around. So I just want to offer you that invitation um, if you're interested in doing that. So I want you to think about, as you think about your big move, who and what influence you the most? Are you more influenced by God's promises, or are you more influenced by other people's perceptions of you, or your own perceptions of you? I want to encourage you to be influenced by God and who he says that you are, the plan and the purposes that he has aligned for your life, and he is just waiting to fulfill for you. So I want us to close out with some personal affirmations. And I want to encourage you to say these things out loud, but I also want to encourage you to maybe write them down and put them someplace where you can kind of look at them on a daily basis. The first one is, I give myself permission to discover and pursue my God-sized big moves. The second, I give myself permission to wait and move at God's pace and not be pressured by external influences. And thirdly, I give myself permission to start and finish strong. So as you prepare to gear up and go for the next big move that God can give you permission strong. Thank you for joining us here at Life Purpose by Design. And now it's time to gear up and go.